Hi, this is I think a two-part demo. We're looking at Streetscape Pro for generating sections through roadways, and it kind of roughly also gives you the shapes of buildings. So we'll quickly install the software. Here's the install exe. Okay, accept the license terms. Okay. Tiny little utility, so it shouldn't take long. That's it, done. It's ready to run. Should be on the start button now. Okay, and I'm just going to pull it across from my other screen so we can see it. So here's the kind of the default setup. Now I've used it already once just to see how things worked, but I want to try this again. I'm going to have a look at the settings first. Whenever I put a tree in, I had to redefine the tree every time, so I want to kind of set the defaults, and ideally it's going to be the trees here. So I've got the trees enabled. I'm going to make the trees reasonably small so they don't take over everything. Canopy width 4 meters. Colors are okay. Trunk height's a bit high there, so I'll say 2.4, and trunk width is huge there, so let's just go for, that's overall, just 0.2 of a meter, 200 millimeters. Okay, now I'm hoping that's going to save that default and actually use it. Maybe you have to retrieve it every time, but we'll see. Sun and shadow, I don't want to use the shadows either, because once they're on, they're kind of difficult to pull out in Photoshop, and I'd rather just you could put them in later yourself. Okay, so we'll just save that again. Oh, latitude and longitude. It has remembered the numbers I put in last time, so that's the latitude and longitude for Dundee. So, you know, if we do want to use the sunshine, at least we've got the right kind of coordinates, 56.5 and very close to -3. Okay, I'll just keep saving it just to make sure. So, okay. Right, now what I've done is prepared some data. Okay, now I'll just show you the data and then I'll show you where I got the data from. Okay. Right, I've moved the file since. I renamed it actually. Streetscape Pro. Let's just use the JPEG actually. Section data. Okay, so I'll zoom in on that. I'm using Photoshop because it's a bit easier to control. Okay, Camia, stay still. It's been fussy. Okay, so this is a location in Dundee. Let me just show you the photograph as well. Section location. Okay, big junction. We've got kind of two roads running side by side, so it's a real nightmare kind of setup for pedestrians. So there's a parking lane. There's two-way traffic on this road. There's 2 lanes heading west on this side of the road, and there's 3 lanes heading east on this side. So, you know, all in all, we've got 8 lanes of traffic that people have to deal with. So I'm taking a section through this tenement, right across the road, and into this large casino building on the other side. So here's that in kind of data form. Okay, so using Digimap, okay, I'll show you how I did this anyway. Using Digimap, took a measurement across from building and just reading off the numbers at each position. I didn't do separate measurements, okay, and that way you get a bit more accuracy. You know, it's not fantastically accurate, but if you do what's called a running size or a measurement string, then you'll get a bit more accuracy in that way. Okay, so what I'll do is just open Digimap and let you see where that came from. So it was Ordnance Survey I better log in first. Okay, should jump back in. Ordnance survey. Just use the Rome facility. Okay, tank in on Dundee here, and we want to get as close as we can. This is the junction here. Getting really close as the highest kind of level of building accuracy as you can get. And I just drew a line initially, just so I could, make sure I knew where I was. Made that a fairly thin line. Okay, and it should just let me draw a line from here to here. So kind of going through the crossing points. You have to double click to finish it, please. Doesn't want to stop. Thank you. Messy. Not the best drawing tools. Okay, so just so I had a reference point to use, and then using the measuring tools for distance. Okay, you basically you can't zoom in any closer, so you've just got to do this fairly carefully. And then, so I was reading off the measurements there. So the first measurement I took was 1.9. okay, and then over to the next one, and just writing these down as I went. Where the line crosses a feature, you just take that number down, and then we can do a little bit of maths to sort things out. So that's how the measurements were taken. Okay, let's just quit that. I don't like Digimap's tools, they're pretty clunky. So that gives us, these were the Digimap measurements, in the burgundy colour. Okay, and these numbers in the kind of teal are the differences between these numbers. Okay, and then you've got to kind of translate that into something sensible for what's happening with the actual road. So there's 3 lanes here. One of them is used for parking though, which is likely not to be as wide as the traffic lanes. So you have to make your own kind of decisions here, unless you go and measure it on site. So I'm saying that the parking lane was just 2.1 meters wide, and then 3 meters for 2 traffic lanes. Okay, we've got 8.2 meters here that's only shared by 2 lanes. They're wide because this is a trunk road, and so you're looking at lorries and things, and this is where kind of traffic was coming together, so there's a bit more space here. And then we've got 3 lanes of traffic on this side, so actually that should be 2 times 4.1, not 2 times 4. Just notice that. I'll correct that before this gets used in class. And on this side we've got 3 lanes heading kind of this way around the roundabout, so the 12 divided by 3 gives you 4 meters per lane. Okay, the Streetscape also is able to put in the kind of masses of the buildings on either side. Being an American bit of software, it tends to expect buildings to have flat roofs, but what we'll do is draw the masses as flat only to this height and this height. Okay, because it doesn't let you kind of draw the shapes of the building. So what we'll do is draw that bit in afterwards in Photoshop. So that'll be in kind of part 2 video. So we'll use these numbers for the heights of the buildings, and then add in the rest later on. So I've got a 3 meter setback, and then it jumps up again up to the 23.2, and we'll kind of add that detail to the section just to make it look a bit more contextual. Okay, so that's the kind of introduction and where the data is coming from. I'm going to need to put this view to the side so I can read the numbers as we progress, and I want to be in Streetscape. So let me just organise my windows a wee bit here. Okay, so the screen's split into kind of 2 areas. This is the section up here, and this is a plan which is kind of animated. If I hit play, whee! Okay, it's a bit, a bit Bernie, as we would say here. So I'm really not that interested in the plan arrangement for this particular kind of view, for this particular kind of presentation. Okay, so we can hide the plan on the view button here. You can switch off the plan. Okay, and I'm going to have trees shaded. Now there are people on these, and I haven't found those yet in the come back to life. Thank you. Yeah, you can add things, but I haven't been able to see adding people. So even though you add a pavement, it doesn't necessarily add people to it. Maybe there's a button somewhere that I'm missing, but we'll see later on. Okay, so just dealing with the section, what we need to do is just make sure we've got the right kind of directions set up. So east and west for these isn't right. These need to say south and north, okay, to kind of keep the orientation that we're working with. So what you do is drag this little slider. So we need south and north, that's better. So if we set it to the road running west, then it gives us south on this side, north on this side. Right, so what I'm going to do is put in the names of the buildings. So it's supermarket and casino. There isn't a building setback. The building height we're going to use is 17.1 meters. So 17.1. Okay, we'll just leave the building depth. Actually, we can make it a bit narrower. Let's say it's 6 meters. It'll make the section a bit easier to work with. Push that to the other side. So there's the supermarket and casino. Okay, and on this side of the road we have some modern flats. Okay, and they are 11.27 meters high. And let's leave the building depth at 6 meters again. Okay, so that's automatically put that in. Now we can't see the top, which is a bit of a shame. No matter what I do there, I can't see the top of the building. Now that might go all the way through to the printout as well. If so, we're kind of stuck. You know, is the biggest building you could put in that big? I think once we get the wider section, the buildings should come into view. I think it's only because the roadway here is very narrow. Okay, so now we're looking at what's happening with the road. Okay, so we do have the first item. It usually goes from this direction to this one. Okay, so we do have a pavement, and that is 1.9 meters wide. Okay, so you see that's shrunk. There's then a parking lane, so I'm going to put a plus there, and there isn't a parking for cars, so we'll just have to use vehicle lane. Okay, so I may as well use this one, and I'm saying that this was 2.1 meters wide for the parking. Okay, notice the cars disappeared. Then we've got a vehicle lane of 3. That's okay. Then we want another vehicle lane of 3. Right, hold on. It's this one that we want a vehicle lane. Oh, sorry, I'm at the wrong jail here. So after this one we want parking. That's better. Right, so parking here, so we'll keep the definitions. I'm pretty rusty with this software, as you can probably see. It's only the second time I've used it. Okay, and that was 2.1 meters. Okay, then another vehicle lane of 3. Okay, and then we have a pavement, a broad pavement, because it's a kind of a pedestrian crossing kind of switch point, 5.6. Okay, so let me just pull this on to let you see where we are. Okay, so we've done the 1.9 pavement, the 8.1 road, and the 5.6 just now. Okay, bring back Streetscape. Okay, so now we've got the bigger chunk on the other side. So that's one pavement. Now we're adding another vehicle lane. So it's, and this one is going to be a 4 meter. Then another vehicle lane, 4 meters again. And then we've got a central reservation where there's a kind of a traffic island for pedestrians that's 4.2 meters. Okay, so effectively I don't want to use reservation because it implies that nobody's allowed on it, so it really is a pavement. Okay, and it's thrown a tree on there for some reason, not my choice. So pavement again, this time it's 4.2 meters wide. Okay, I'm hoping I can remove that tree at some point. Okay, so we've got parking, 2 vehicles, pavement, 2 vehicles. Now we need 3 vehicle lanes. So this is it's a beast of a crossing and a section. But you notice the buildings have dropped down now, so that's better. We can see the tops of the buildings. Okay, so we need 3 vehicle lanes, and each of these 4 meters. And then we have our last pavement of 4.6 meters. Okay, and pavement 4.6. So this has actually worked slightly better than previously, because last time I tried this it didn't actually imply curbs and the raised bit in the middle, whereas it has this time. But there isn't any trees in the middle of this road, so we could do with losing the trees. And how we do that, let's look at this 4.2 one and let's see if we've got, so it's got trees enabled on there, so I want to disable the trees on that one. Good, so we're showing people, which is fine. There isn't any trees on this side either, so pavement, trees disabled. Okay, that looks pretty believable now. We haven't got things like lampposts and stuff, but those are the sort of things that you could add in Photoshop. Now, luckily the cars are sitting in the right directions for this road. They're not for here. We'd be seeing the backs of both cars, and here we'd be seeing the fronts of 3 cars. So just kind of bear that in mind. Right, that's the section as far as I would take it in Streetscape, and the rest I would do in Photoshop. But we do need to export this, and this is a bit tricky because if you do another section, it resizes, everything kind of resizes to what's happening in the viewport. So you're probably best to kind of do your biggest section first, and then once you've got some smaller sections, they're going to have to be kind of resized in relation to the big one. Otherwise, things are going to be, you're going to be showing sort of big street and narrow street, and people aren't going to really understand what's going on with the scale. So the scale bar here is pretty handy for you to use as well. So let's export that. So I'll save it first. So we'll do save as. Okay, and I think I've got a file here that I'm just going to save over the top of. Okay, and then export an image. Okay, that's really small, so I would go, let it export big, and you can always shrink it later. So, you know, look at the proportions of this. At the moment, it's about, what would you say, kind of 5:3, or maybe even 2:1 ratio there. So let's say 4,000 pixels wide by 2,000 pixels high. Export it to a file. Okay, and you've got options with the files. So I would go for TIFF or bitmap. Okay, and that way you're not going to lose any quality at all. Okay, I would generally go for a bitmap. Okay, so bitmap, and I'm going to save it as this. Output no plan. I'm just going to take that number 2 off. Okay, I'm just going to delete this one actually, so don't get confused with it. Doing this fresh anyway. Okay, so Westport crossing. Let's put the crossing in. Crazy caps locks. Westport crossing output with no plan included, and save. Okay, and what I'll do, I'll just open this in Photoshop just now, just to make sure it's happy. Open Westport output, no plan. So it's a big file, 31 meg. Okay, but that's what you want. It's going to means there's going to be some decent quality there. So we've got the full heights of the buildings, which is ideal, and we've got reasonably good resolution on these, so we're good to go. Okay, right, that we'll just stop the video at that one, and pick up again with the Photoshop. Don't want to make the video too long and tedious. Okay, see you in the next one.